All right, so the first part of working with Redux is installing it. Right, so let's install Redux in here, and for that we'll need to install two libraries. If you remember, we need to install the core library, the Redux library. So let's copy that and paste it in here. So that's going to download the Redux library and make an entry into my package.json file, right? So that if I deploy this into Heroku, Heroku will know that it needs to download and install that remotely. We also need to install the library that glues together the Redux library with the React library, right? So that React can use this feature. All right, so let's paste that in there. Oops, nope, I just did that. Copy, paste, there we go. All right, so that's going to add now the other library. Excellent. While that's going, we can go back to our IDE and make sure we are working in the correct project. Let me close most of this. And just to show you how we might want to start creating the reducer and whatnot, right? Okay, it's done. Let's create here in the source. Where are we? Let's see. We have app.js, where we have just a whiteboard. And in the whiteboard, we're going to start with what the widget list might look like. Right. So let's create here in the components. We'll create the widget list. So new JavaScript widget list component. All right. We'll need to import React from React and create here a function called widget list component, which might take as argument a widget list, or maybe just widgets in plural, using ES6. So to just to get us started here, we're just going to say widget list. And we're going to export this into the default, into the widget list component. Very good. And let's see in the whiteboard, let's load that for now. All right, so there's our widget list component. And if we take a look at that, it did not render. What? Did I not run it? Oh, I thought I stopped it. Let's run that. npm start. There's our widget list. Yes? Everybody good? Excellent. And the widget list probably will want to have accept a list of widgets that would iterate over and render different types of widgets. To hold the state of the current list of widgets, we're going to create a reducer that's going to be responsible for keeping track of all these widgets. Right? So let's create a reducer here. Let's create a directory of reducers, and we'll create here the widgets reducer. So we'll create a JavaScript. We'll call it the widget reducer, or widget list reducer. And for now, it'll be just a function. So widget list reducer will be a function that eventually is going to need a state and an action, but we're not going to use them just now. Right now, it's just going to return a hard-coded array of widgets. Yes? Right? Something like the first widget might be a heading widget. And the heading widget might have a size, might have some text. Hello from Redux. You might have another widget, might be of a different type. Maybe it's a paragraph widget. And there's no size. It has text. Hello from Redux paragraph. That's all it's going to return. It's a hard-coded function. It always returns the same thing. So that is the current state. There we go. Yes, everybody okay? Right? And we're going to export this. So export default, the widget list reducer. Excellent. So now we have to somehow glue, right? Somehow we need to glue this. Actually, we might want to put here that this is an array and has a property called widgets. Yeah, I think that's better. There we go. So it's an object, not just an array. It doesn't return an array. It returns an object that can contain an array. There we go, widgets. All right, so somehow we need to get this widgets all the way down from this reducer into this component. Yes? All right, somehow we need to do that. And that's where the glue is, right? We need to glue, we need to get a provider, we need to create a store, we need to create a mapper, we need to do all that. And that's where most of it gets lost, right? So how does this glue work? Right? That's the part that nobody likes. So let's do the glue. All right, let's practice. Hopefully after doing this 10, 20 times, you'll say, yeah, I see. Right? All right, so let's start off with first. We'll need a wrapper around this, a container, right? A container that is going to map. That's going to somehow magically map this state, right? This object that is the current state of the reducer, and it's going to map that into the property, right? Into this props that this component is expecting. Yes. All right. So let's do that. Let's create a container. And we call the components that do this mapping, we call them containers. So we'll create a directory as a containers, and we'll create the widget list container, JavaScript. So this will be widget list container, right? And what do we need here? We need to import React. We'll need the components that we need to feed this property to. So we'll import the widget list component. We'll also need the function that actually does the glue, right? Which is the connect function. Right? The connect function does the glue, right? So let's import the connect from the glue library. Oops. There we go. Oh, no, that's not it. If I could type today. There we go. And the glue looks like this. We create the component. We create the component, the widget list container. And this is going to be equal to the connect. And the connect takes its syntax is as following. It takes a component here. That's where we're injecting all the properties. Where are we getting the properties? Right? We're mapping them from the state, right? And generating the properties that it needs, right? I'm just going to give myself here some more space here. And typically, that's the function that does the mapping. Typically, we call it the state to property mapper. It doesn't have to be called that. It's whatever you want to call it. But that's a good name to capture what it's doing. So the function is called the state to property mapper. Takes as argument the state. Who's going to give it the state? The provider, right? The provider is going to take the store, is going to feed it into all the containers. The containers are going to call these functions, pass it the state, right? And in that function, you're going to pick and choose what do you want to grab from the state, and you want to map it into the property, right? So this function is going to return an object. That object is the mapping of saying where you want to generate on the left-hand side of this map. You want to generate all the properties that your component is going to expect. Here we have that component. That's what they're expecting. Where am I going to grab that? I'm going to grab it from the state that the reducer is generating. The reducer is generating this object. Yes, right. And this object has a state variable in there called widgets. That's where I'm grabbing it from. So I'm grabbing it from the current state widgets. Okay. All right. Very good. The last thing here to do is that we want to export this. Export to the default package the widget list container. right, so that we can now provide it the state that it's looking for. How does the container receive the state? The provider provides that state. So we need to generate the provider. Let's do that next. Let's go back to the whiteboard. Here is our component. We're not going to use the component directly. Instead, we're going to use the container. Right, we need to import the container. So widget list container. And the container is expecting a store, right, where it can grab the state and do the mapping. So we're going to wrap this with a provider. The provider is the one who's going to provide the store, right? So we need a store. So let's grab the store. Let's create a store. So this will be const store. The store is going to use the create store function, which is that takes as argument the reducer where the state is coming from, right? So the reducer, we stored it. Where is it? We called it widget list reducer. There it is. Right, that's the create store takes as argument the reducer, and create store is declared in the glue library. The create store and the provider are both declared here in the Redux, the create store, let's see. We probably also need to import. Create store. Oh, I think create store is not in React. It's actually in the regular React library. Is that correct? Cannot resolve create store. Is that not in React? Or is React Redux? I forget. Let's see. Where's my cheat sheet here? I'm sorry? Oh, Redux. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Right. So create store is in the regular Redux library, whereas provider is in the React Redux. Excellent. Once we have the store, we can feed the store using the provider. We can feed the store down to the container. Right, and the container will extract the widgets from the state, feed it into the property, and then the property will feed it into the component. Right, so a long winding road, right, of grabbing data from the state all the way down to the component. Okay, all right. Let's see. All right, so it's promising. We'll notice that the widget list indeed is just rendering normally. It's not blowing up. So presumably it's got the list of the widgets made it in there. So to make sure that it made it, let's see indeed if we can iterate over this list of widgets. Let's wrap this in a div here and see that we can iterate over this list of widgets and maybe make this a little smaller. And let's iterate over this. So we're going to take the widgets, we're going to say map. And this is the widget. And let's return maybe just what? Let's see. We can. What are we receiving? First of all, we are receiving a type, a size, and a text. We don't always get the size. We always get the type. We always get the text, but not always the size. So let's just print out the type. How's that? Let's just print out the widget.type. If we render it, let's see, expected an assignment, component, expect an assignment, oh, okay, sorry. Let's see, did that render? There we go. Notice that that's the text, right? That is the text that we're just concatenating one after another of the different types of the widget, right? The heading widget and the paragraph widget. So this is promising. We are actually getting the data, right? So presumably we could put this in a UL, right? We could put this in a UL, and the rendering of this might be perhaps instead of just a type, it could be just an LI, right? LI, and inside of this LI we might render the widget type. There we go. So we have the types. Definitely we got the type. We got the text perhaps. Or we could render the text. There it is. Hello from Redux. Hello from Redux paragraph. Everybody okay? Yes? The only thing we've done is just connect a static array of widgets that is in the store, right? Generated by the reducer. We've just plumbed it all the way down to a component, right? That knows how to render it as a list. Yes? So that's a good start. Let's go on. Let's keep going now.